the American descendants of slavery. And I want you to know, Brandon Johnson, I understand what Breakmore's saying about we still on the plantation, but what you're looking at right now, this is what a free Negro look like. And I'm telling you, we're gonna get our city back, we're gonna stand for our people, we're gonna get them out of our communities.
Eventually.
And though he has succeeded in every other progressive legislative agenda item that he has tried already so far this past year, on this one big issue, his efforts fell short.
Around a lot of misinformation really struck at people's financial concerns.
I think there were 38,000 Republicans that showed up and voted for Donald Trump or something like that in Chicago. I'll just say it. There's a good chance that played a part in this referendum. So the same people who want to see Donald Trump, those are the same voters who voted for him and the same voters where you look at where there were more no's, they were concentrated there.
A lot of people who I have listened to, spoken to on the radio and in the communities were really highly upset that the referendum that they really wanted on the ballot did not make it, and that's the one about whether or not we should continue to commit money towards Sanctuary City and immigrants and that type of thing.
What is good, YouTube family? It's your boy Rashad. We back again with the Black Anomaly Rising channel. So I gotta talk to y'all about Brandon Johnson. Okay, this Bring Chicago Home initiative failed miserably. Okay, this was roughly a week ago, I think a little bit under a week ago, so I'm getting to the story kind of late, but some useful information here because the reasons behind the failure were expounded upon as you'll see in this video. Okay, so it should be pretty obvious for anybody who's been keeping up with the situation in Chicago. Basically, there's been all these illegal aliens, all these illegal migrants coming to Chicago, and woke Mayor Brandon Johnson has been literally taking money allocated towards infrastructure and rebuilding and revitalizing communities, like upwards of well over $1 billion that was allocated towards specific initiatives by Lori Lightfoot in the past, and basically just handed the money over to illegal migrants, refused to put sanctuary city status on the ballot. Okay, the aldermen and women, they voted to not put this on the ballot, effectively taking away voters' ability to vote on sanctuary city status. So this is kind of the way you look at this is like they got their lick back, basically. Like they took and they smacked him because he didn't allow them to vote on what they wanted to vote on. So now they kind of got a little bit of payback, like, no, we don't trust you anymore, Brandon Johnson. And he's talking about raising taxes and how it's going to address this homeless crisis, but why haven't they addressed it with all the money they had? How are you possibly going to address it with the border still being open, people still coming in, you still having to give money away to these illegal immigrants, and then all of a sudden now you're promising, oh, well, if we get a little bit more money, we promise we're going to take care of you, the homeless people, including a lot of homeless black people. We promise we're going to take care of you now. It doesn't make sense to trust them at this point. And he's tried to sulk and try to blame Trump and all this ridiculous stuff. Take a look.
Mark, the mayor is championing the idea of creating a dedicated revenue stream to help the unhoused from the campaign trail all the way through his first year in office. And though he has succeeded in every other progressive legislative agenda item that he has tried already so far this past year, on this one big issue, his efforts fell short. Mayor Brandon Johnson pushed hard for the Bring Chicago Home referendum, but tonight he is dealing with the failure to bring the vote home. Still, he's vowing to continue the fight.
Even when we experience, moments like this, we don't ever quit. We don't quit on the people of Chicago. My administration is still very much committed to working with coalition and those who need to better understand what we're up against.
The measure promised to generate $100 million a year to help the unhoused and increase affordable housing by raising the real estate transfer tax on homes and buildings sold for more than $1 million. But voters rejected the measure, leaving supporters disappointed and pointing to several factors.
But certainly, I think that the millions and millions of dollars that real estate lobby opponents put into this around a lot of misinformation really struck at people's financial concerns.
Guys, I just want to say this. How come whenever somebody disagrees with radical leftist policies, even though we can literally see how the Democrats have done something like use the money in the past, all of a sudden they want to accuse everybody of spreading misinformation or, just being misinformed. It's like, no, we know what the heck's going on and we don't support this garbage. But anyway, Onward with the video.
Opponents, including one alderman who represents the downtown business community, says his constituents are breathing a sigh of relief.
And it shows that voters aren't really ready to trust this administration with more money until they see some better progress on the pressing issues that we're all confronting every day here. So I think the mayor got a report card last night, and he did not pass.
Opponents had blitzed the airwaves with ads critical of the referendum and warning that it would lead to an increase in property taxes and rents, which apparently resonated with voters. Supporters of Bring Chicago Home called that campaign misleading.
I think we had the better argument. Ultimately, it seems like we failed in making that argument effectively with the voters, at least with the majority of them.
The measure also likely failed because despite the push to polls by progressive unions and other supporters of the referendum, those voters did not show up.
It went down because when you look at the people that voted, it was 55 and over. Those are the people that are paying taxes. Those are the people that own the majority of the homes. The people that are making the noise are the young people who are not paying taxes.
I think there were 38,000 Republicans that showed up and voted for Donald Trump or something like that in Chicago. So, you know, since if we're trying to draw some conclusions and you all want some other, you know, analytics you might want to discover, that might be something to look into, because I'll just say it, there's a good chance that played a part in this referendum. So the same people who want to see Donald Trump to become president, you know, sometimes I do feel like he wants my job, but who wants to be president again, those are the same voters who voted for him, and the same voters where you look at where there were more no's, they were concentrated there.
First off, I want to say that Carlos dude, I don't even know why the hell he was even in there, because I thought he was supposed to be like stepping down after he had blocked a black woman from entering and voting as it related to this migrant crisis situation. Like, he literally blocked her path. I did a video about that in the past. So it's like, what the hell is he still doing there? Was I misinformed about him no longer being an alderperson? Like, was he like, I don't know, the head person in charge, and he just stepped down from that position? Like, now I'm a little bit confused, so I need to figure that out, because I'm tired of even looking at this dude. As far as I'm concerned, he don't need to be nowhere associated with no type of government position, period. And also, as you can see with Brandon Johnson, this fool is literally up here trying to blame MAGA voters, which doesn't make sense. Like, people literally said that they were going to vote against him. And the way I see it is that this is kind of a first step. Imagine if it was truly just about him, people would definitely, I mean, this dude has no chance of being reelected. Like, no chance whatsoever. And he literally is ignoring people. Earlier, he said he didn't care about votes at one point in time, when people said they weren't going to vote for him and his initiatives. He was like, I'm not worried about votes, I'm worried about the people, so on and so forth. Seems like you should have been worried about votes all along, if you ask me. Now, you also got this Kimberly person. So she is apparently a radio host out there, I believe in Chicago, also an attorney. And she basically said that she actually does something that Mayor Brandon Johnson doesn't care to do, which is actually listen when people talk. The constituents out there, the people that actually, you know, voted for him and are saying what they want and what they don't want. And she breaks down what people have told her, and it's essentially boiled down to the migrant crisis being something that people want it handled better. They don't want to see all their money just taken and given towards other people who are not U.S. citizens. Take a look.
Honestly, a lot of people who I have listened to, spoken to on the radio and in the communities, were really highly upset that the referendum that they really wanted on the ballot did not make it and didn't get a full hearing. And that's the one about whether or not we should continue to commit money towards sanctuary city and immigrants and that type of thing. And there are a lot of people like, you're not getting this, we didn't get that. And I don't know what that translates into, but I know that there were, I think you would have even seen probably higher turnout if that had made it onto the ballot. I'm gonna say that I know quite a few people talked about the idea that they felt like their vote was suppressed when that referendum, which was just an advisory, it wasn't binding, but when that did not get a full hearing, when they used kind of parliamentary procedure to just block even having a vote on it in city council, that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. It wasn't to end sanctuary city status, but it was to decide whether there should be a cap on how much money should go toward that. A lot of communities, especially African American communities, are the #1 communities where the migrants are. That doesn't seem to be changing anytime in the near future. These neighborhoods are changing a lot because of this, and there's not a lot of discussion about what is going to happen with African Americans in these communities, or where people are living, how this is happening. We talk about crime a lot. Whether right or wrong, people are associating a lot of the thefts in the stores with migrants. Could be completely wrong, but there are just so many factors that are not being discussed. And historically, African American communities are having their face completely changed by this and not having a lot of discussion about, or even being able to weigh in on what they want to see happen in their communities. So I think down the road, you may see more as we go closer
to the general.
Yes.
And what do you
And also, how about the idea that the one message that came across very strongly for people who wanted you to vote no was, you don't know where this money is going. Look at what happened with the migrants. You don't know exactly how it's going to be spent.
Now, this dude can cope and try to make all the excuses that he wants, but the writing's on the wall, dude. You're cooked. People are fed up, and it's showing. And, you know, they try to get all these low information, really young voters out. And the funny thing about it is, like, I'm gonna keep it 1,000. A lot of people may not like this, but a lot of the people who are like younger voters, let's say they're like 18, between like the age of like maybe 18 to 22, like that straight up college age. I mean, essentially these are like glorified high schoolers, at least in the mind. A lot of people don't move out of their parents' house. A lot of people, if they do move out, they got their parents paying all their bills. You know, don't really, you know, they don't do their own insurance. They don't do their own property. They don't do their own car most of the time. So they really don't have any idea how this stuff actually works and the true impact of it. You know, they may learn some stuff on paper, but it's a lot different when you're actually out here in the real world. So they try to get these people out to vote. And sometimes they do a lot of these kind of like middle elections. I just feel like they usually just don't come out. And that's one of the reasons why this failed as well. They try to get the most malleable people to do like these woke progressive type policies. It fails, and then they sit up there and just look kind of stupid, like, well, what happened? It's like, well, you're trying to rely on an unreliable group. It may work sometimes, particularly in presidential elections, which is like the main place that it works. And even then, a lot of young people don't vote. But for something like this, I mean, I'm shocked that they even came as close as they did. But I'm not surprised at all that they ended up failing, because initiatives like this are just going to hurt communities. All these additional taxes and stuff. First off, you can't trust how they're going to use the money, because how it works is once the money is there and once it's approved, you can use it for anything that you want. And of course, it's going to go to the migrants. We already know that. And it's been proven. It's not just me saying this. This is literally what they've done before. Secondly, those new taxes incurred by the homes over and the properties over $1 million in value, it's just going to be passed on to the consumer. Like, that's always how business works, right? Anytime I do business and if I get more expenses, what do? I raise the cost. I try to do something to offset it. Otherwise, you just don't end up making any money. And you basically just got to either close your business or pass the cost on somehow, right? So it's really that simple. You don't just take a hit like, oh, I guess I got to pay more. Like, that is stupid. So I'm glad that this failed. This is a preview for Brandon Johnson. I'm hoping that now he's going home and realizing that the writing's on the wall and that he's losing sleep, realizing that the red wave's coming. Okay, he's already calling it out. He's blaming MAGA. You know what? Fine, blame MAGA. Maybe it is MAGA because you created more MAGA. You ever thought about that? I wasn't voting for Trump originally, right? Like, this is something that occurred after the C-19 pandemic, okay? A lot of people have been turned and have been red-pilled by the authoritarian left. And I'm hoping that Brandon Johnson's ready, because it's going to be a lot more where this came from, especially this November. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate y'all watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.